gate opens in 45 minutes. Hi everyone, my name is Dennis and welcome to a special kind of flight review today. I obviously filmed this after my journey on Singapore Airlines flight SQ326 from Singapore to Frankfurt. Before we switch over to my experience with this particular flight, I feel like I have to give a short introduction. Why am I boarding a plane during a time of a global pandemic? Why am I so crazy to board a plane during Corona? Before all of this happened, I was actually traveling around in Southeast Asia. And it was in March when I finally made it to the city-state of Singapore by crossing the land border between Malaysia and Singapore. That's the place from where I tried to follow all of the news regarding the outbreak. It was actually also that time when all the countries around me suddenly closed their borders. And it was a quite scary time because nobody knew where is this going to bring us. It seemed to be one of the safest spots to be around. And up until today, I think the Singaporean government and the people of Singapore did quite well. This was not a leisure trip or a trip I booked just to be able to film a flight review or to film my experience with Singapore Airlines at that point. There was only one reason for me to book this flight, and that was to go back to Germany after 3 months of trying to monitor the situation around me. So I checked my options. I found a direct connection without any trouble regarding transfer or connecting flights, because even though I love flying, I'd rather choose not to fly at this moment, and I want to encourage you to stay safe as well and postpone your adventures for better times ahead. So I decided to film my experience. Without further ado, this is what happened to me on my flight from Singapore to Frankfurt, so please enjoy. My trip to Germany with the flag carrier of Singapore started early in the morning with a taxi ride to Terminal 3 of Changi Airport. On my way I was able to spot some of the parked planes which are currently not in service. As I already expected, there were no other cars or passengers visible upon my arrival at the terminal building. The screens inside showed me a total of 6 flights leaving for that day. For the check-in and backdrop, I then went to the self-service counters before heading over to the immigration with my boarding pass and passport ready. Now that's what I call an empty airport. The gate opens in 45 minutes. And that was only 10 minutes before scheduled boarding. While walking through the empty airport, I realized that there's actually more airport staff than passengers around. A very unusual and awkward situation for one of the busiest hubs in Asia.
326 to Frankfurt. Please remain seated until we call your cabin class and boarding group.
The boarding took place a bit later than indicated on my boarding pass, but due to an incredibly low passenger load on my flight, the whole process only took a few minutes. I actually counted not more than 30 passengers on this flight. While entering the plane and walking through the business and premium economy cabin of this 777, I was friendly welcomed by the cabin crew wearing protective face masks and goggles. As I booked my ticket as an award using KrisFlyer miles, I picked a seat with more legroom free of any additional charge.
Welcome on board this flight to Frankfurt. The flight time today is 12 hours 35 minutes. Weather on road days that are forecast is going to be bumpy, especially for the first segment of the flight. The whole of Bay of Bengal is forecast to be bumpy.
As mentioned before, the boarding was completed lightning fast and the Boeing 777 left the gate ahead of time. Hope to see you again soon, Singapore. Soon after takeoff, the cabin crew offered some non-alcoholic drinks and asked for my lunch order. I had the choice between turkey pasta and a local dish called nasi lemak. I politely asked for the latter, and to my surprise they even had an alcoholic option on offer, a pale ale from the can. The food was tasty, and after my meal the crew also offered additional snacks from a huge tray or basket. A regular service card was not in use for this flight and probably not necessary with just a few passengers on board. The onboard entertainment system called Crease World is operated by touchscreen or remote control connected to the seat. The system offers plenty of movies, TV shows or music to choose from, and it's a pleasant way to spend some time during the flight with these. I had some minor technical issues with the system, but the cabin crew instantly initiated a restart of the system for my seat. Later I realized that the earphones provided by the airline were not functional. I didn't mention this towards the crew as I switched to my own earphones. After several movies it was time for the pre-arrival dinner. But before I discuss the meal options with you, let me mention that the crew was very dedicated on this flight and was checking on everyone on board continuously. Even under special circumstances and a certain distance due to additional safety measures, I always felt very well taken care of. Special thanks therefore to the cabin crew on this flight. I know the times are hard for you guys as well. The meal choices for dinner included fish curry and chicken with flavored rice with a raspberry cake as a dessert. After my second delicious meal it was already time for the descent into Frankfurt International Airport. All in all, I was very surprised by the product offered by Singapore Airlines during the time of a serious global pandemic. In particular when many competitors reduced their service to a minimum and when they grounded parts or their entire fleets for long-haul operations.
It's been a pleasure from you on this flight. Thank you for flying Singapore Airlines, a member of Star Alliance.
Welcome back guys! I hope you liked the video about my experience with my flight on Singapore Airlines from Asia to Europe. I didn't film much of my arrival at Frankfurt Airport as the whole procedure seemed pretty normal to me. There was no temperature screening whatsoever. But I'd like to give you some additional information because after my flight I learned that there's actually new regulations in place regarding the situation at Frankfurt Airport and also the situation on board of Singapore Airlines. Singapore Airlines announced that they will now hand out additional amenity kit, including a face mask and hand sanitizer, for example, to every passenger. Almost at the same time, the airport in Frankfurt announced that from now on people will have to wear face masks inside the terminal building, which was quite surprising to me because I thought this regulation is already in place. So I was wearing my face mask, of course, upon my arrival. Just let me know in the comments below what you think of my flight with Singapore Airlines, or simply share your questions with me. So long, always travel safe, and see you in the next one.